Okay, in this video, I want to remind my pre-cal and IB students how to factor. Okay, so if this is definitely not an intro video. This is something that you've practiced it a while. You might need a little refresher. Maybe you never learned a method that you loved. So this is my favorite way. After almost 20 years of teaching, this is my favorite way to factor. So I'm going to come up with a tricky problem, and the reason I'm doing it first and not just starting with a problem is that you can create as many of your own as you want later. So let's say it's going to factor down to 3x plus 4 times, I don't know, 2x minus 5. Okay, when I FOIL that out, just a reminder, this gives me 6x squared. This is going to give me a negative 15x. This is going to give me a positive 8. So that's a negative 7x. And then this gives me minus 20. Okay, so now this we're going to hide. We're not paying any attention to that. We'll know that we're right when we get back to here. So let's say the directions tell you to factor 6x squared minus 7x minus 20. Now, my favorite method is to split the middle term and to factor by grouping. So step one, keep in mind this is in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. So step one is to multiply a and times c. So in this case, I've got 6 times negative 20, so that's a negative 120. Step two says find factors of that value of AC. Okay, so I'm going to write down, okay, what multiplies, I'm going to think of what multiplies to give me negative 120. Well, negative 1, negative 120, negative 2, negative, positive. Okay, I could switch these signs, and I might need to in a second. 3 goes into there 40 times, and 4 goes into there 30. Oh, let's make one of them negative, just for consistency, whatever. 5 goes in there 24. Negative 6 times, what does that give me? 20. 7 doesn't go into it. 8, let's see, negative 8 goes in 15 times. And notice, if I switch, okay, so there's a bunch of terms. Does 9 go into it? No. And I'm checking 9 doesn't because 3 does, and 3 doesn't go into this one any farther. But 10 does, say negative 10 times 12. So I'm looking at these pairs, and what I want to do is now step 3, pick the pair that combines to B. Okay, then that B is this middle value here. So when I'm looking at this, I see a negative 8 and a positive 15. That would give me a positive 7. But if I switch it and say, okay, positive 8, negative 15, now this is the pair that will split, to give me that. So now step 4 is to rewrite the middle term. Okay, so now I have 6x squared plus 8x minus 15x minus 20. So notice this is equivalent to this previous statement. So everything I'm doing, and especially, well, as you go forward in math, every step needs to be consistent and logical and equivalent to the one before. So this step here is equal to this. So now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to factor by grouping. I'm going to see what factors out of these first two. Let's see what factors out of those two. Let me tell you, I have seen kids who will then say, I'm going to write it on another piece of paper because it's wrong and I don't want you to do this. But they'll take this, and instead of doing like the little curly brackets underneath, they'll say, okay, well, 6x squared plus 8x times negative 15x minus, well, no. This is saying that you've got these things multiplied by that. That is not equivalent to what came before. Okay, so don't do that. You can use either no notation or that sort of a notation. I notice, okay, so back to this. So step 5 is to factor by grouping. Okay, so here, let me write that again. So out of these first two terms, 2 comes out of both of those, and they both have an x. So 2x, leaving me with 3x plus 4. These both have a negative 5 in common. Keeping in mind, I'm going to factor out whatever this sign is right here. So negative 5 times this would be a 3x a positive 4. Notice now both of these terms. So here's one term, here's one term. Both of them have a 3x plus 4. So I'm going to factor it out. 3x plus 4 times 2x minus 5. And now notice this is exactly the same as what I started with. So this method works all the time, every time. It's lovely. It's fantastic. I would think that if you had something like this, x squared minus 5x plus 6, that this is something that you could do just by guessing and checking. You should be a little bit faster than this method on this one. So I look at this and I think, okay, there's a 1 right here. I just need to see what multiplies to give me a positive 6. Well, a negative 3 and a negative 2 would multiply to give me a positive 6, and then a negative 3x and a negative 2x would give me that negative 5. So you want to, I personally use this when it's a little, this longer method, when it's kind of an uglier problem. But these right here, the faster you get being able to factor something like this, the better. All right, good luck. Go practice. That's the only way to learn it.